Dateline Krypton. Tonight's top headlines. Zudarian Green Lantern Tomar Ray has been dispatched to collect the rare element stellarium for unknown purposes. The Science Council issued a statement that noted scientist Jor-El's alarmist statements of impending doom are nothing but fake news. And locally, a group of nerds talks about comics. This is the Kryptonopolis Bugle. Tonight's discussion, superheroes. What are they?
Hi, welcome to the Kryptonopolis Bugle. We are your hosts. I'm Jeff.
I'm Kevin.
And today we are going to be talking about the definition of superheroes. So, Kevin, what makes a superhero?
Well, it's very interesting to say that. So I think the first thing we have to think of is, I think we can pull out some examples, right?
Right.
Superman, Batman, Booster Gold, those guys are superheroes.
Generally speaking, but I have heard people argue, and this is a stupid argument, but I have seen people online argue that Superman is not a superhero because he's an alien instead of a person given powers. I've seen people argue that Batman is not a superhero because he does not have powers, or also because he does not work in the daylight. I've seen people argue that... I've never seen anybody argue that Booster Gold is not a superhero, so...
Because he's the best.
He's great. But I assume that the argument against Booster Gold would also fall under the argument against Batman being a superhero, given that he also has no powers. I will say all of these are stupid arguments.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'd like to hear your opinions. Go ahead.
Okay, so whenever you tackle any subject, you have to go from general to broad, right? So we have to establish the fact that there are many...
From general to broad?
Sorry, from general to specific.
Okay.
So you have to understand that there's various types of superheroes, right?
Right.
There's your romantic heroes, there's like your barbarian heroes, your gothic heroes, and your superheroes.
Right.
And you have to be able to establish kind of what makes what. And I think all of us, to one degree or another, kind of recognize, because we've been taught, what a superhero is by examples.
Sure.
And if you want to nitpick, everyone has their own definition, right?
Sure.
And I can't say, well, this is what, Webster's defines as a superhero. It might be in there, I don't know. But
we could actually go get a dictionary and read it.
Define a superhero. According to Google, a superhero is a benevolent fictional character with superhuman powers such as Superman.
Well, but that would exclude characters like Batman and Booster Gold because they don't have powers.
Well, that's Google.
That is Google's definition.
But we're not Google.
We are not Google.
Google is some weird Earth thing. We are from Krypton.
Yes, that's right. We are the Kryptonopolis Bugle.
So we can look up other definitions, but I think for you and I, we can only discuss what you and I feel is a superhero.
Sure.
And we can't convince anyone else, but we can give forth our opinions and people can agree or be wrong, basically.
Right. They can either agree with our definition or they are wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
Right.
And so for, say, a romantic hero, people have a certain, I always thought a romantic hero was someone who was charming and that you'd want to have romantic relationships with.
Sure.
But really what a romantic hero is someone who, goes against the authority and society of the day and does their own thing. And that's more characteristic of a romantic hero than someone else. Like, say, a different type of hero. Not necessarily whether or not they're
attractive,
romantically viable, but, they're more of not quite being an anarchist, but doing their own thing.
I think I followed that, yeah.
So, in the same light, we have to kind of set our own parameters, and during this, we're going to have to define not only what's included, but also what's excluded.
Right.
So, first, it's good to figure out what something is by looking at its opposite. Do you think of Spawn as a superhero?
Actually, yes, I do.
Okay.
I see Spawn as almost being a textbook superhero. Even though his powers come from a very negative source, he fights against the source of his powers and uses them in the causes of good.
Okay.
Almost exclusively.
So I would argue I don't know much about Spawn, I know a bit about Spawn.
Right.
I would say that he isn't, because one of the characteristics for a romantic hero, someone who, goes against the trends.
Sure.
Not actually against the trends, but does their own thing. A barbarian hero is someone who relies on their own physical strength.
Like Conan or Cole or those guys.
Yeah.
Tarzan, probably.
Yeah, exactly.
Generally, a barbarian hero would be a series set in a wasteland, a jungle, off in an adventure area.
Yeah.
Khazar.
Someone who...
going to the realm of comics.
Someone who doesn't need society to survive.
Right.
I feel like it's a defining characteristic. But for a superhero, I feel like intent, as far as intent, but being good has become a defining characteristic of this genre.
I would agree.
And I feel like for a lot of Spawn, he does have some good intent, but a lot of it is somewhat selfish.
Have you read Spawn?
I've heard summaries of it. So
okay,
maybe we should go on to a different example.
We should probably go to a different example, because Spawn explicitly, despite receiving powers from hell, he uses those powers specifically to help people and take down people who are hurting them.
Oh, I thought he was just out to get vengeance and stuff.
No.
Oh.
No, he's not. I mean, I think he started that way, but he very quickly turned into a demon fighter.
Okay, so Spawn, really convoluted and crazy, and I'm not really up. But would you consider Punisher a superhero?
I would not.
So I think the term anti-hero gets thrown around a lot.
Right.
And that could be applied in like kind of the shoot 'em up, but also like Robin Hood or pirates could be considered anti-heroes because they're heroic in the fact that we kind of want to be them, but they are bad guys.
I see Robin Hood almost as also a prototypical superhero.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I have a definition in mind that I will come to.
Okay.
When we come to our conclusion. But I see Punisher as not being a superhero because he is not out for the purpose of helping people. I think there's three things we need to look at for defining genres of heroes, right?
Mm-hmm.
We need to look at how they do what they do as a definition of what sets a particular genre's heroes apart. Mm-hmm. What separates them from their surrounding society.
Mm-hmm.
And what the character's motivations are.
Yeah.
So let's tackle motivations first.
Okay.
I don't consider Punisher to be a superhero because his motivation is not, and I do think that this is a required, necessary trait for a superhero.
Mm-hmm.
The Punisher's motivations are not helping people.
It's stopping.
It's stopping bad people. The Punisher wants to kill criminals. And that's all he wants to do. He does very carefully make sure that there are no innocents that get in the way. But he is not out to prevent little Susie from getting attacked. He's not out to make sure that LaWanda isn't attacked in an alleyway. He is there to kill the criminal after the fact. To punish. That's all he wants to do. That's all he's interested in. In my mind, one of the three parts of the definition that I plan to get to is a superhero is someone who is motivated by helping others. He or she, or they, is motivated to go stopping bad guys insofar as that prevents those people from hurting others.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. So it's not let's raise and protect the good, let's punish the evil.
Right.
Not be part of the super. Or if it was just purely for punishment, which I guess Punisher is a good example.
Right.
That's not what makes a superhero. I feel like a good example is like in Kingdom Come.
Mm-hmm.
For those of you who don't know, Kingdom Come, it's basically the traditional superheroes versus the new wave of superheroes.
Absolutely.
Which are just super powered people or super skilled people taking people out with no responsibility. And it is that let's attack the evil and let's not care so much about the good and how easily collateral damage increases when you take that route.
Right.
And so I feel like that's a very good... Was it Mark Waid? No, not Mark Waid.
That was Mark Waid.
It was Mark Waid.
Alex Ross and Mark Waid.
There we go. I know something. Yay!
You know a lot more than you think you know.
And So I feel like that was a good example of superpowers can't be it.
Right.
And I know we'll get to that, but intention is important. And I feel like nowadays we're kind of going back to the thing that Mark Waid was trying to write about, where we want, I don't want to upset anybody, but we want the next snappy Superman. We want the guy who takes out the bad guy, because it's so much easier to control something by eliminating it instead of boosting its opposite. Instead of, whereas Superman, another YouTuber put it very eloquently, if the only way Superman can defeat his problem is by punching in the face, you're doing it wrong. Because Superman is there to inspire. To borrow the phrase from the Richard Donner movie, the original, when when Jor-El is talking to him, he's like, be a symbol of hope. Show them what they can become. And that's the greatest force of good you're going to be. It's not punching Lex Luthor in the face. It's encouraging everyone to rise above the evil within themselves. And therefore you will boost, the good in the world, instead of trying to fight all the evil and hoping that you can eliminate it.
Right. And that sense of motivation brings us around to why I would say that Robin Hood does qualify as a superhero. He is motivated by a desire to help the common person. He hates Prince John because Prince John is hurting the lower class. And he wants to get the negative influence out of power so that the people that are being hurt can be protected. But you mentioned somebody right at the top of the show that I would like to use as an example here, Booster Gold.
Oh, yeah.
Now, when we're talking about motivation, that's one of the things that most people point to for Booster Gold to set him apart. Because Booster Gold is a superhero who does want corporate sponsorship. He wants there to be a profit margin, and he's very self-aggrandizing. He goes out and he takes his friend Skeets, who's a little robot flying buddy, and has him loudly announce, Booster Gold is here! Drink soda cola! Each time he arrives on the scene. But even so, he's not solely motivated by desire for profits. The stories in which he is motivated solely for profit, he fails as a superhero in those stories. In storytelling, the lessons that we learn are who succeeds through the methods that the storyteller wants us to learn. Mm-hmm. Those are the things we are supposed to be inspired by. Booster Gold stories where he is solely motivated by profit margins, those are the ones where he fails. And he fails miserably. Booster Gold stories where he is motivated by a genuine desire to help people, and he is a nice guy. He really does want to go out and help as many people as he can. He just also wants the side profit from it.
And who doesn't?
And who doesn't, right? But that is an example of what separates one motivation from another.
And I think it's really important because I heard a conversation where they're talking about Silver Sable. Spider-Man will do something, and Silver Sable was like, well, let me pay you. And he's like, no. And she's like, well, I would have paid you anyway, or I would have paid someone else to do it. Right. And yeah, you did it for altruistic reasons, and he turns it down. And you can argue well, that would really help Aunt May, that would really help, pay his bills. He's not helping his family, but it's so important that no other motivation comes up. That he's like, I can't take the money, and even though he did a good thing, and in real life, when you do a good thing, it's getting reward isn't a bad thing.
Right.
When you do good at your job, I don't think firefighters and policemen should have to work for free.
No, absolutely not.
But because he's a superhero, which ultimately is a fictitious character, he's like,
right,
nothing else should be my motivation. And
I would like to read that story. If you can find out what that is, I'd love to read it sometime.
I'm sure it happens a couple of times, and I'm not even sure if I can name it, but they were just talking about the Silver Sable story. And she's like, well, I pay people to do good things. And he's like, no. And he doesn't go, no, you don't get it. I'm a superhero.
Right.
So I can't do that.
Peter's too nice to do that. Peter's too he's got some tact.
Yeah. He doesn't go, you don't understand. I'm a superhero comic book character. And if I take money, it cheapens me as a character.
Right.
He doesn't. Grant Morrison wasn't writing the thing.
Right. Well, hey, now wait a minute. Putting that on button, we should probably move on to our next topic.
Okay, so next topic, becoming large. How do you phrase it as the means by which they do their thing?
Yes.
I think of it as they have to be super in some way, not only what they can do, but in the minds of those they fight against and those that they inspire. And
I like that.
So to borrow the line from Batman Begins, you have to become Zakar Ra's al Ghul. I don't know how to pronounce his name. Raz or Raish or Rahuzi al Ghul. So Ra's al Ghul says you have to become more than just a man in the eyes of your opponent. And later, when Bruce is talking to Alfred, he goes, "As a symbol, I'm incorruptible. As a man, I can be destroyed." And so part of being a superhero has to be being more than just an average man. And, well, yes, and that kind of separates them from real life heroes, I feel like. Like, that's why a police officer or a firefighter does extraordinary things. And they are separated by society by their uniform. And they carry an authority and they carry a presence because of that.
Right.
They are still human in your eyes. They are heroic, but they're still one of you. They're still one of us.
Absolutely.
Whereas Batman, people will say, "Oh, it's just a guy jumping around in his pajamas." But if I were in an alleyway, and I turn around and see a silhouetted man, I'm gonna freak out. I see that crazy dude, I'm losing it. Like, that is, even if I know it's just a man,
right?
Like, that's a man who's dressing up like a bat. That is something that is super in my mind. Like, as soon as you see that image, like, that's not normal.
Right. And real quick, let's take a cross section. I'm going to stick with DC here just for a moment. I heard somebody one time on Facebook argue that the Flash is almost the only actual superhero in the Justice League because he is a regular person who is given superpowers as opposed to an alien or a person without powers. Which, they're wrong.
Yeah.
I can understand their argument. But looking at the Justice League as a cross-section, you've got people like Cyborg, who are connected with otherworldly technology. You have people like Batman, who are regular dudes that are highly trained with lots of equipment and a sense of the dramatic. And you've got aliens like Superman and Martian Manhunter, who are normal examples of their race, but on our world have more abilities than the average person. You have people like the Flash, who have innate abilities that are granted through outside sources, but began as regular people. And you have people like Vixen, who is granted powers through a magic totem, but is otherwise a regular person. That's very disparate. Like, that's a wide range of power sources, right? And all of them are superheroes. So we have to say that a person that is a superhero is somebody who has powers, skill sets, or resources, or any combination of the three that are above and beyond what is available to the average person or even the governments of their surrounding world.
Absolutely, because if you take the average soldier, right, they're going to have training and equipment, and even because of their training, strength and endurance above the average Joe, but they're a G.I. Joe. Which puts them, but they're still a Joe.
Right.
They're not an average Joe, but they're still a Joe. You could ostensibly become that. You could go to a sit-down restaurant and see someone in their fatigues.
Right.
Or you could see, firefighters after a job sitting down and getting a cup of coffee. Now, I know in comics, there have been instances of, like, Batman and Gordon sit down in a diner, have a cup of coffee. But if you saw that, no, that's not right.
I love those scenes, by the way. Those are fantastic every time it happens, and it's delightful.
And one of the things that I feel like puts them apart, going back to dear old Booster, you were telling me about one time where Booster Gold, was being arrogant and self-serving and stuff.
Sure.
And is it true Superman takes away his cape?
He did take a well. There was about 3 issues in the original Booster Gold series where he had a cape, and there was an issue. Then a couple issues later, the cape is just missing, and no comment is made on it. And I think it was the artist realized the cape was stupid.
Oh.
But years later, there was some dialogue in a later Booster Gold series where it is stated that the reason the cape went away was because Superman said that he was not worthy of it. And he took it away.
And I feel like that's another thing in, obviously not every superhero, because even more Marvel has less capes than DC, from my perspective, from outside perspective.
Honestly, there's shockingly less capes in comics than anybody realizes.
But I guess if I look at my iconic Justice League, which was the animated series, I can only think of 3. Batman, John Jones, and Superman.
Right. Actually, even going back to other Justice Leagues, like the only other major Justice Leaguer I can think of that normally wears a cape, I guess Captain Marvel has on occasion been a League member, and Mr. Miracle. But beyond that, it's members of the Super and Bat family.
Yeah. And going back to like those, say what you will about any other character. Like there are great characters out there, but I think we can all agree that Batman and Superman are the 2 icons of superhero dumb.
Yeah, I would. Right? Yeah. Clark, Bruce, Diana, and Peter are probably the 4 most. Well, and nowadays Tony, but
and no disrespect to Wonder Woman or Spider-Man, but compared to the other 2,
there's no comparison.
If you went up to the average Joe before the Wonder Woman movie,
before the Marvel film explosion,
well, even before like Wonder Woman's movie, and you said, "What's Wonder Woman's origin?"
Oh yeah,
most people wouldn't be able to tell you. Nowadays,
everyone has the origin wrong too, because the movie said she was not made of clay, and that is ridiculous. That's another video. That's a whole other thing. Moving on.
But the idea of being set apart, and capes back in the day, from my limited understanding, were like a symbol of office.
Sure.
But no one wears capes nowadays.
No capes.
Well, let's come back to fashion choices, because that's the third. That's going to be our third section. Is
for me, that's part of what sets them apart. What makes them super.
Right. That's why I said resources and what sets them apart from their society.
Yeah.
So the resources is their power sets, and like I said, I think they have to have abilities above and beyond what is available, what the average human can do, be it heat vision, flight, what have you, and or they have to have access to skills above and beyond the average person, skills and or knowledge.
Are you saying that Batman's ability to be above an Olympian level in almost everything he does is super in some way?
Absolutely. And or they also have to have access to resources and or technology above and beyond what the governments of their world can even achieve.
Yeah, they have to be more than someone who just does good. Like they have to be more to be a superhero, not to be a super person, but to be a superhero. As we're in this discussion, they have to be more than just a really, really good person.
Right. And I think that's going to bring us to our third section, what sets them apart from their societies. For a barbarian hero, what sets them apart is generally shirtlessness and living in the jungle or the wastelands or whatnot. I would consider Mad Max to be a barbarian hero.
And he doesn't need, like, if someone accosts me, I'm not going to fight them with my fist. I'm going to call the police.
Right.
Because I have been, blessed, but also weakened by modern society. And you and I aren't going to survive in the wilderness.
We're not Tarzan. We're not Conan. We're not
Slain. Right. But so.
Who?
Oh, he's a character that I heard about. He's a British dude.
Okay, or like you've got cowboy heroes who are set apart by society, by their local society. They don't dress any different, but they are set apart from their society because they wander. They come in, solve a problem, maybe they get paid for it, maybe not, and they head off to the next town. You know, they head off to solve the next problem.
So what sets superheroes apart?
Now they live in their society. There's no physical separation, right? But what sets a superhero apart from their society is their outfits. You know, clearly nobody's going to walk around dressed like Superman, right?
Unless they're like 3.
Yes. Well, but that's because Superman is a concept that exists. Like, nobody is going to go into work in a bat costume. Yeah. You know, this is what makes Batman not be a cop. Police have a standardized uniform, right? Everybody wears the same thing. Soldiers have a standardized uniform. Each unit wears the same clothes, right? More or less. A superhero has to have an outfit that separates them from their surrounding society. Something unique to that person. I want to say something about the X-Men, but their costumes have been off and on this for decades. I know that the movies keep trying to reality ground the outfits. Think of the first X-Men movie.
Oh, yeah.
Especially with their gag about the yellow spandex.
You actually go outside in these things? What would you prefer? Yellow spandex?
In that first X-Men movie, the X-Men almost aren't superheroes in the traditional sense. That's why that movie was able to be made when it was, because nobody had any faith that a superhero movie could succeed. So what they did was they made an action movie in the style of an 80s action movie. That's why they kill all their antagonists. You know? Because that's what Rambo does.
Yeah.
That's what the Terminator does. In a big budget action movie, traditionally, we feel the story is completed when the bad guy dies.
So you say they might be considered superheroes, but they would be, in your, box, they'd be more action heroes,
right? Which is another genre
category of hero, but with superhero trappings like the powers and this whatnot.
Right. But in that movie, they wear uniforms.
Yeah,
they don't wear costumes. Each one has some detailing that is unique to the character, but by and large, they're all just wearing black leather jackets and black pants.
I always feel like the Fantastic Four are superheroes.
Right.
Even though they have matching outfits. But I feel like because the Fantastic Four have things that are so opposite from normal fashion.
Right.
Not that I know anything about fashion, obviously.
Look, dude, you're wearing jeans and a t-shirt. These days, that's fashion.
It never goes out of style. Thank you, James
Never
Dean.
goes out of style.
Ever since James Dean rocked it, we still can't pull it off as well as he did.
But. No.
And I feel like the Fantastic Four, those are vibrant blue shirts with numbers in the middle, which I guess, they're jumpsuits. Whereas because it was black and it was so muted, you could say, that could be just a leather jacket that you zipped up, or just
absolutely.
leather
pants
or pleather or whatever it was.
What? Who cares?
But so
black pants.
And the question is if we hadn't had the source material, would we have thought so much? It's almost like their villains were more super villain-esque.
Well, Magneto wears a bright purple costume and flies.
Yeah. So that
with a big old helmet.
So that kind of gets them. But I also feel, just because of the nature of that movie, it's not like a Wolverine's like, oh, by the way, I have this yellow suit that I have because he just got into. So, as far as the story goes, but I do get that you need to have something that visually separates you, like dressing up like a bat, as ridiculous as it seems.
Right.
It does, it's striking.
Now, that is something that the Punisher has.
Oh, yeah.
He has a very distinctive outfit that is highly recognizable and generally sets apart from what the average person on the streets would wear. Now, sometimes it's more muted. Sometimes it's more costumey, and sometimes it's more street level. But by and large, Like his original outfit with the white gloves that go up to the to the elbow and the big old skull logo, you know.
And the ammo for teeth.
Right. But you can't just be wearing combat fatigues and be a superhero. Well,
you mean
could.
like the
Wildcats?
I guess they do have like distinctive lines, but I feel like
they very much do.
But I feel like Cable though. Cable just looks like a cyborg with junk.
Yeah, he kind of does. But here's the thing about Cable. Cable would never call himself a superhero.
True. And so that's an example of someone who's in that genre, who's in that environment, who's like, no, I'm a soldier.
Yeah, he would call himself a soldier.
Yeah.
And when he joined the New Mutants, he turned them into soldiers. He treated them like a combat unit as opposed to a superhero team. And generally characters that dress that way do that.
Relax. I'm retrieving something from my utility bag.
It's a fanny pack, and you know it.
I know there's back and forth, and arguments can be made either way. I really like the trunks.
Like absolutely,
Superman,
absolutely.
Superman, Batman having trunks.
Well, Green Lantern had them. Superman, Batman, Green Lantern all had
Wonder
them.
Woman.
Wonder Woman. Well, yeah. But her pants stopped there.
I mean, Wonder Woman used to give it everything.
Martian Manhunter
had trunks.
Absolutely.
I think maybe the Flash didn't.
Flash has never had a separation in the crotch area. No.
Okay.
He always had that. His costume was broken up by the jagged lightning belt.
Yeah. So no trunks for the Flash, but like what for you?
Yeah.
What do you think? Because we're talking about like what sets you apart, and obviously the obvious joke is they're wearing the underwear on the outside, but I feel like that's another thing that puts them separate. It's not just some dude in a combat outfit.
Right.
And, we don't have time to go into should Superman be wearing Kryptonian battle armor, Jeff? We won't go down that road. But I feel like it distinguishes them even more when you have that uncanny look. And as a child, I never thought of them wearing underpants. I was like, oh, that's just how that's how Batman looks. That's how Superman looks.
I just assumed that his pants were that color in that section of the pants.
Yeah.
Like he's not wearing something over his pants. It's just that those pants happen to be made of three pieces. The legs are blue and the crotch area is red.
Yeah, and for me, it almost felt like it makes it seem like they're not wearing a uniform. Like the rest of them is because obviously the origins, which have been long since put aside, are the strongmen in the circus who only wore the trunks.
Well, the circus strongmen, some of them only wore the trunks, but a lot of them were wearing leotards underneath trunks.
Yeah,
and that was a very distinctive visual image of the circus strongmen of the 1920s and the 1930s.
Yeah, obviously it started off as that, emulating that strongman, the person because it began off with, physicality, having the strength and all that.
Yeah.
Back in the day. But it evolved into being an icon of superhero costumes, and it just seemed, for me, it seems right. Now, obviously, I have nostalgia bias. I have, I watched the Bruce Timm and
Paul Dini.
So Paul Dini and Bruce Timm cartoons.
Right.
Like, those are my. That's superheroes.
The DCAU, the DC Animated Universe. Yeah.
And so it's easy for me to say, well, that's just a staple. And kids these days, they just need to grow up about the underwear on the outside.
Right.
But for me, like that's one of the things. Another thing that sets them apart, because no cop and no firefighter, as real as they are, is not going to go out with trunks over their uniform.
No. And I want to say, for the record, I love police officers that are not corrupt. I love cops, and I love the fire department. I'm so grateful for all that they do.
Yeah, they're real heroes.
They
not
are real
superheroes.
heroes. But a superhero is a very defined, separate thing.
Yeah, they're an idea almost.
Yeah. So to summarize, and I'm going to give what my definition was here, and you can argue it back and forth if you want. The three things you need to define a superhero: powers, abilities, skills, or resources that are above and beyond what the average person or even the average government has access to. They need to have a moral code that drives them to help people more than anything else. And they need a distinctive outfit that separates them from the average person of their era and their surrounding society. Does that sound about correct?
Sounds good. I'd say, just maybe putting my own spin on it,
Sure.
is it has to be someone who wants to help society at large.
Right.
Not necessarily specifically any particular group, or if it was only, I'm going to help this certain group of people.
Yeah, okay.
Superheroes
Fair
have
enough.
to be universal, and I feel like they have to be a champion of their own society. I'm okay when Black Panther kills. I'm okay because he's the king of a country, and as the king of a country, sometimes he has to wage war against invaders. So, but as far as Batman, he lives in ostensibly America, where we don't believe in killing people as much. We don't have infighting where bloodshed is typical. So we have this idea of, let's not kill people, let's put them through due process of the United States. Which, besides the whole, obviously, beating the snot out of criminals without a warrant, Batman, once he captures the guys, lets it up for due process. So they have to be a champion for their society.
Okay.
They have to be outside of their society, but still dwell within it. And we didn't talk about identities, but that's a huge part of it.
Okay, continue.
So they have to be able to be part of their society, outside of their society, and for their society. And
also in some manner be above their society.
Yeah, they have to be something that you can shoot for. Now, obviously, that's why, as much as I love Batman, I feel like Superman is the superhero.
Absolutely.
Because, people call him the Boy Scout, but he is emblematic of that ideal that while we as humans might not ever be able to get to, we're constantly striving to.
Right.
I'm gonna get on my platform, my little soapbox here.
All right.
When you have superheroes with moral corruption, or not moral corruption, not that they're bad, but when it's the argument that superheroes need to get with the times.
Right.
That, this Superman is more emblematic of our times. He's a darker, grittier Superman. That's not his job. Superman isn't there for you to tell him what to do. Right. Superman is there to be the goal. Yeah, the beacon, which might be out of reach, but he's leading you down that path.
Yeah.
If your argument is that Superman needs to be more relatable, and so you want to bring him down, his morals closer to the average human. If you want him to be a morally average man, but a super powerful man, then he's not doing his job.
Right.
If anything, you take down his power level, fine, I don't care.
And if you would like to read that story, it's called Irredeemable, written by Mark Waid. It's fantastic. But it's not Superman.
No.
If you want to read that story, it's been written.
Yeah. And I feel like because what Superman and Batman, and this could be a whole different topic. Like, what is it? What's the takeaway? Why is
that's another video, and that's
so. I just want to talk about rules, but in general, why do we need superheroes? So we need Barbarian hero because we're distinguishing superheroes from other types of
heroes. The action heroes.
The action hero is someone who you throw them into sometimes you just need to act.
Yeah.
Sometimes, like, thinking is great, and we as a society, we champion science and analytical thought, and that's great. Sometimes you just need to just go.
Yeah.
That's the action hero. The barbarian hero is sometimes you need to be able to rely on yourself.
Yeah.
You know, the romantic hero...
I would almost say Lara Croft is almost a barbarian hero type in some ways.
But she does use her gadgets a lot. And
she does. All right, so continue.
And so, you know, the barbarian heroes there teach us, you know, sometimes you got to rely on yourself.
The explorer hero type
is venturing into the unknown.
Venturing into the unknown.
The superhero is find... For me, the purpose of the superhero is find what you're good at. Find what skills you have and apply them to the betterment of mankind.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That's...
And we can talk about individual, like, maybe you're in a very good society where there's a lot of good, and I know a lot of people are critical of, I'm getting on my soapbox again, are critical of, like, Western society. Western society has given us a lot of good things. Now, there's a lot wrong with it still.
Yeah.
We still need to fight against a lot of things. But it's kind of like, you know, that's Superman. Metropolis has corruption, but not nearly as much as Gotham. and so emblematic, Superman, you know, we have the forces of good have a lot of power, like Superman. And sometimes you're in a situation where you feel like you're in, like, the most corrupt, like, there's a lot of, you know, evil in the world, and you don't have a lot of
power, personal power.
But like Batman, who doesn't have a lot of power, you can use your mind. Okay, how can I influence? How can I go out and, you know, be a force, a symbol for good?
Get out and vote.
Yeah.
Do get out and vote.
That's one power that you have. And so and we can go into individuals, but as a genre, why we need superheroes and why we need, you know, we've defined what is a superhero, but why? The why is because they teach us to use our gifts for the betterment of mankind.
Okay. I think that's a fantastic place to stop. I agree with you 100%. Now, I would like to close out with a segment, a new segment, although this is a brand new show. And this segment is called "Are They a Superhero?"
Oh, okay.
So we're gonna take a couple of example characters and determine them by our criteria.
By the way, he's probably going to know a lot more about these characters than I do. I'm not going for comic characters here.
Okay.
And we might disagree, so this might get... there might be bloody noses by the end of this, but we'll edit that out.
So, would you call Lara Croft a superhero?
No.
I would agree.
Who does she benefit?
Herself, mostly. Yeah. And her outfit, while useful for the adventures she goes on, is not specifically distinct from her society.
Not anymore, yeah.
RoboCop.
No. Well, from what I understand of RoboCop, I don't know, because even though he has very much limitations, he still tries to do the right thing as far as his programming allows him.
Right.
And he is distinct from the rest of the police force. But does he... Okay, so I know this is supposed to be a snap thing, but
sure.
The questions that need to be answered before we can give a yes or no is...
skills, abilities, and resources above and beyond the regular society.
Yes. But is he part of his society still?
That's not really.
So I feel like he's almost more like a tool. If it depends on how much of, I don't know, is alter ego.
So what you're going to say is it depends on the writer. It depends on the story.
Yeah.
RoboCop could be dropped in a story where he is absolutely a tool, or he could also be dropped in a story where he is acting as a superhero. Is what you're getting at here, I think.
Yeah, if he's able to rebel against the corrupt individuals who are using him, then he could be a superhero.
Okay. Robin Hood.
It depends on how you look at Robin Hood and what version of Robin Hood.
Sure, absolutely.
Let's
take it down to Errol Flynn or Disney's Robin Hood.
I'd almost say Disney, yes, because I don't know much. I know Kevin Costner, Mel Brooks.
I would almost Mel Brooks. Honestly, Mel Brooks' Robin Hood is nearly spot on.
Unlike some other Robin Hoods,
I can speak with an English accent.
He wears a distinctive outfit that separates him from his society. The recognizable green outfit that sets him apart. He is the greatest archer in all the land, and is the greatest with most weaponry. And
because it's in the script.
Because it's in the script. And he has access to tools and resources with his merry men that his merry men offer that society at large does not have. And he acts primarily for the benefit of the people. Any version of Robin Hood who takes from the rich and gives to himself is a robber hood.
A robber hood. So my question for any particular Robin Hood is he just Robin of Locksley, the outlaw Robin Hood, or within his time frame, is he a bit of a legend? Like, is it, have you heard about this Robin Hood?
I like that. Okay, yes.
Because...
yeah, that does make the difference.
And if he's like, ooh, have you heard about this Robin Hood? Then I consider him a superhero. But he's still a really good man. You know,
right.
he is, pick your political preference, but anyone who, he's a lobbyist almost. He's a lobbyist for, if you're on the right, he's a lobbyist for tax reform. And if you're on the left, he's a lobbyist for helping the poor. It all depends on how you want to use it.
Right, sure. Okay.
But he's a lobbyist with a bow and arrow.
Right.
He's an anarchist lobbyist. And that can be a good, any, like Martin Luther King. I wouldn't consider Martin Luther King a superhero.
Right.
I'd consider him a civil rights hero.
Yeah.
And I'd put Robin Hood in with him.
But Robin Hood wears a costume.
Yeah, well, when I'm not sure if Martin Luther King ever wore like the Reverend.
He had his standard suit and tie primarily.
And so it depends. Like, so if you consider the Robin Hood costume, it has shades of superherodom, definitely.
Yeah. If
within the story he is to use that phrase again, more than just a man.
Yeah.
Then yes, I'd consider him a superhero.
Okay, fair enough. My final one is the one that actually got me thinking about this topic in the very first place. The Doctor.
The Doctor
from Doctor Who.
No. I think there's a lot of boxes that he checks off, and he does do good, but he never becomes, because again, you have to walk that line. You have to be more than your society.
Right.
But you also have to be part of your society. And one of the icons of superherodom is not, I'm sure you could point to, maybe Aquaman, but you have, identity, secret identities is a staple of superherodom.
There are many that don't have them.
And I'm talking from my limited experience.
Absolutely.
But they're able to be part of their society, and then when they're in superhero mode, they are above their society. And I'm not sure I don't even know that much about Doctor Who.
Okay.
But he is not part of any society. He is more of a romantic hero in that way, in the fact that he lives off by himself. He isn't tied down to any place. He does use technology and his mind, so I wouldn't call him a barbarian hero.
And he actually does have physical abilities that the average human does not have.
I would, from my understanding of what a romantic hero is, he falls more...
He has two hearts.
Oh yeah, well then definitely. His job. Well, and it depends on, from my understanding, which Doctor you're talking about, because some of them are very aloof and very mean. Even
yes, but even that, and I would argue that each Doctor has a costume.
Yeah.
Their outfits are always at least 20 years out of date. They never wear the clothes of the current society.
We're in the age of the hipsters. Nothing is out of date right
now. All I have to say to that is bow ties a coup.
Doctor Who was a hipster before hipsters were cool. He's the ultimate hipster.
But I mean, but the first Doctor in the 1960s wore an outfit that would have been standard for the 1890s. Yeah. David Tennant's outfit is literally stepped right out of the 1980s.
I don't know much about
the tweed. Well, he wore a tweed coat, and anyway,
Converse.
And Converse, yes. So you would argue that the Doctor is not. I would argue that the Doctor is. I feel that he fills every single slot.
And I can see how he fits your list. I just don't feel like he's part of any society.
Okay. And that's fair enough. Well, thank you for watching. This has been the Kryptonopolis Bugle. I'm Jeff.
I'm Kevin.
And you guys have a wonderful day.